Yes, I'd like to welcome you back to another COVID weekly update. Yeah, we know. It's COVID, nothing has changed, but I'm going to do the show. I'll be on the fence about the show now because things are just getting a little off balanced, clouded, unreal. But yeah, I'm going to give you the COVID weekly update. And basically, now this first update, what I found is kind of disturbing. They say they're accusing or blaming unvaccinated healthcare workers of something that's going on. Basically, patients or people that go to the hospital, and I think I covered this over the week, people that go to the hospital just for routine checkups or whatever, or panicking, they're rushing down to the hospital. When they come out or while they're there, they go in negative, and somewhere along the line, they contract COVID. Now, for me, it's hard to believe that this is caused by the frontline workers or the ladies and gentlemen or the however pronoun correct it is. It's coming from them because they've got to take all these precautions, and they've been dealing with patients who have been just coming in for routine things, emergencies and things like that for years before COVID and during COVID and at the beginning of COVID and now with Omicron or Megatron. But the sad thing is they're trying to say that the unvaccinated, and of course this was before the bill got shot down last week. I gave you that information on Strolling and Trolling. Before the bill got shot down, everybody was blaming all the unvaccinated people for spreading COVID, which didn't really make sense. But now that it's spreading through the hospitals or through the emergency rooms or healthcare system, it's being blamed on the healthcare workers. Well, let me just give you some real technical information, something I went over one time in the past about COVID, the air conditioning systems. Now, for 2 years, we've been dealing with COVID in the hospitals. At the end of the day, it's in the air. We know COVID is transmitted through the air. Do you think they've done, and I'll give you some more technical information so my professional strollers and trollers, they can actually spread this out there. There's something called an evaporator coil. If you have an air conditioner in your home, you have an evaporator coil. And what your evaporator coil does, it removes the condensation or removes the heat from your home. It removes the heat and it gives you cool air. I'm not going to explain the whole air conditioning system, but what happens with those coils, sometimes they get clogged, they get dirty, and what that dirt is dust, it's pollutants, it's incondensable things that it's just trapped in the fins, and the coil has fins, something like a radiator. So I'll break it down like that. It's something like a radiator. So your filter is supposed to protect the fins of this coil, but sometimes over time things pass through, things get trapped. Now let's go with a bigger system like a hospital, and with COVID and with all the airborne illnesses that are there. Of course, they have some isolation wings where they probably have a different air conditioning system, but there's not much fresh air in emergency rooms and in hospitals across the world. There's not much fresh air. Of course, the World Health Organization had an article on that too. I don't think in the 2 years that we've been dealing with this, that any genius, and there are a lot of geniuses, I don't mean genius as an asshole, I mean real geniuses, smart people have come and said, we can add this into your hospital to remove air, because that's what needs to be done in these hospitals. And I say this to the officials, or if it gets to the official, you need to start removing air from your hospital. Yeah, your bill's gonna go up, we know that, but you need to start removing air, especially in waiting rooms and things like that where it's gonna always be congested. I'm not talking about in operating rooms, because I'm pretty sure you already have a filtration system that's top notch there, but in those common areas, those hallways, those elevators, you need to have a removal system. Your elevators need to have a better, and this is another technical term, a better CFM motor. And what the CFM, a higher CFM, it just, I'm gonna try to make it simple, it just gives more power to pull air out, and that air needs to be evacuated from the facility also. So yeah, it's easy to blame humans, but sometimes it's mechanical. And this is a theory. Of course, HVAC is still a theory. It's just a theory. But the theory of HVAC is to remove heat from one area and place it in another, which is typically outside. And of course, that contributes to global warming too. I'm not going to get all into that. But yeah, so instead of blaming these humans, you may want to look at the mechanics and really go into your maintenance program and get with your on-site engineers and ask them, hey, when was the last time our evaporator coils have been cleaned? I mean clean as in a new type of sanitation, because people, there are chemicals that can clean the coil system. Of course, in a hospital, you can't really shut it down, so it's got to be done in rotation. But it can be done. Now, it's a large scale doing, but just choosing to be lazy as shit and blaming healthcare workers, it really shows me, being in that profession, it shows that at the end of the day, you don't want to spend the money. You'd rather find a person to blame. I mean, it's okay, but let's just be professional about it, because it's better to be professional about this whole thing dealing with COVID and coronavirus and Omicron, Omegatron. Omicron, Omegatron. It's better to be professional and explore all avenues and stop blaming humans. Because if you explore all avenues, then it is easy to get to the root or cleanse the air. It's easy to get to the real cause. But I'm pretty sure that you have in hospitals, they're congested. And of course, I had something last week. I was telling you guys, don't just be so quick to say, oh, I got Omicron, and run down to the emergency room, because you might really get COVID because of the congestion, because they are overcrowded, they are overworked, they are understaffed. I mean, it's just not what you think. And of course, I know I'm important. It's about me. But there are more humans in your city. There are more citizens in your area. There are more people in need of emergency services than you think. So you running down there because you got the sniffles, because you can't stop coughing, but you drink a lot, you smoke cigarettes. Come on, like, be honest. I mean, let's just be honest. So if you quick to run down to the emergency room because you got sniffles or whatever, got the sniffles, then this is for you. Now, if it's a scare tactic, it is a smart scare tactic, because they're trying to limit the number of people that is just running down to the emergency room, and that needs to be done. We all know that needs to be done. That needs to stop, because like I said, I'll say again, it is overcrowded. If you don't have those the true symptoms, I mean, I think it's the body aches and all this stuff, 104 fever. And I got something about the fever coming up next. Actually, I'm just going to jump into the fever and combine it all. So don't run down to the hospital unless you have 104 fever. But then I read an article. It was like, oh, the fever is not an indicator of COVID-19. Well, for 2 years, that was the first thing people have been going on. And they've been running down to take the test, and they've been coming back positive. They were saying some people, sorry about that. They were saying some people, despite their body temperature, they were saying that some people actually still had COVID and their body temperatures were normal. Well, hell, it took you 2 years, going on 3 years, to tell us that? Come on. See, this is where the information has, and I've said that before, the information is not being honestly shared. If this was a study that, and they're studying everything that you're doing, if there was a study going on checking with the fever, and you should have been let that out and told people, because it would have lessened the panic. Now I'm only addressing the people with the information. Leaking the information or giving the information now because the vaccine mandate didn't go like corporate America thought it was, the private sector thought it was. It didn't go that way, so now it's disappearing. Now it's like, oh, that's not important. That's not important. The CDC, I love you, CDC. They shortened the days of actually you having to stay home or stay away from people. They shortened the days, and now the fever's not an indicator. So this also goes into asymptomatic. I mean, but at this point, we're 70% vaccinated. So you're talking to 30% of the people. You're talking to the rest of the unvaccinated. Now they're going to make the unvaccinated people, since this mandate didn't go, they're going to make you feel good about yourself. So be careful with the media. They're going to make you feel good about yourself. And when I say be careful with the media, because you need to pay attention to yourself. If you have underlying health issues, you need to have one of the shots. Please wear a mask. At the end of the day, that's it. Wear a mask. If you don't, and if your doctor hadn't told you you have underlying health issues, don't eat your way into an underlying health issue. Do not. While the weather is bad, because the weather is bad. Oh man, they got tsunamis out on the West Coast. I told you about the asteroid that was coming past the planet. I actually saw the video. I don't know if it was a volcano. They say it was a volcano, but what if it hit? I'm just gonna leave that right there. But if we're going through this whole climate change thing, and our global situation is going to get dire, what you have to do in this pandemic is pay attention to your health. Don't eat your way into underlying health issues right now. Don't eat your way into a supposed heart attack or high blood pressure with the salt and the processed food. Don't do it, because you will have to go to the emergency room, and you probably don't have COVID, but by the time you leave, based off of the information that I just gave you, you could. It's a possibility that you could leave with COVID, and that's not something anybody wants. So pay attention. Pay attention to your health. Invest more in your health, because the fever is now going to be one of those symptoms where the doctor's going to ask you, do you have 104 fever? And you're going to say no. They're going to say, well, stay at home. Let us know if it gets worse. Because 104 fever, that's when brain damage starts to set in, because your body overheats and things like that. Now, if you lay up under the heater, you got a space heater, you under a blanket, and then all of a sudden, oh, I don't feel good. Oh my God, I'm so hot. You're damn right you're hot. But then the body creates heat itself. Don't get confused like it is cold. Like I'm at home right now. I don't wear no pants. I wear shorts. I'm sorry. I do wear shorts. But I don't wear pants because it's cold. So my body creates its own heat. My body works. That's how your body's supposed to work. So don't sit there and panic. Oh man, I feel hot. That's your body fighting the cold. Now, if you got on all these clothes and you jump out a hot shower and then you put on several t-shirts and 2 pair of socks, a onesie, a twosie, and then you like, oh, I don't feel good. You're damn right you don't feel good. You're not allowing your body to do what it's supposed to do to regulate your temperature. You know, so just pay attention to those things, and don't overcrowd the emergency system. It's already overcrowded, and you don't want to be one of those people that come out with COVID. So yeah, now the other thing we've had going on now, and of course the Gorilla Podcast Show. I was one of the Bernie Sanders say he did it first, but I was pretty much trying to hit the whole idea that we need masks. We don't need tests. We need masks. We need preventive measures, not measures to know whether we got it. So, of course, in my opinion, and I read some stuff, the maskinate effort is long overdue. It's behind the 8 ball. It is behind the 8 ball because the push and the fear was that this law would be approved. Private sector, even regular sector. I mean, at the beginning, President Biden, unfortunately, he wanted every citizen in this country to be vaccinated. That was his thing. He was 100% vaccinated, and that got shot down. So he had to go at the private sector, and now that is shot down. So now they want to come back and say, well, everybody needs to wear a mask. Now, the mask mandate is enforced by some people, some places, and you can't get around it. But that should have been the deal first off. If you had have pushed masks, and when the mask came back in stock, and they did come back in stock, if you had a push, or Bernie Sanders saying he was the first, I'm going to say I was the first that mentioned it, Bernie Sanders saying you should have kept pushing, but you out there arguing with other people about dumb shit on the news, and you're not even, you had a platform instead of arguing. I forgot who he was in a war of words with, but it was somebody. You had a chance to say this then. That's what happens. That's what happens with how information and how the people with the information wants to keep it from us. But now that that whole bill, that mandate is squashed, it's like, okay, let's talk about the mask. Let's get them all maskinated. That's my word. Believe me, I was the first one that token that. So if you see that hashtag, it came from the Grill the Podcast Show. Yes, I'm arrogant. Yes, I'm pompous, but I did do it. I mentioned it on my show. Maskinate. That's my thing. The whole maskinate. So now that everybody's talking maskinate, and that's the whole initiative, I'm gonna tell you why it got behind. Because there was so much faith and belief that the vaccine, not by the CDC now, the CDC nor the World Health Organization ever, and I've said this before, has ever gone online or on record and said the vaccine prevents COVID. They say the vaccine prevents you from being hospitalized or dying. They never said it prevented COVID. But our media and the people that we listen to and all the people that we think know what the hell they talking about, they convinced us. If you get vaccinated, oh, you won't catch COVID. Or if you take this medicine or you do this alternative method, you won't catch COVID. That's not it. You catch COVID by breathing in droplets, period. And we do that every day. I'm breathing out droplets. That's how I had to stutter just a minute ago, because my lip got stuck on my microphone with my little chin hair. So, but that's what I'm saying. Droplets come out. Nobody talks with a dry mouth. And of course, one of the long things with COVID is dry mouth and things like that. So you got to think COVID kind of balances it out. So people who have contracted COVID, they have less saliva in their mouth than my juicy mouth ass or your juicy mouth ass or anyone else. So if you feel like, oh, why is the mask such a big thing now? That's why. And it's only going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger because our leaders, Dr. Fauci, Mama Pelosi, and Papa Joe, at some point in time were caught without their masks on. They were caught in a public setting. I know Cousin Fauci was up there reading books. The Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham. Come over here, Green Eggs and Ham. He's at a book party without his mask because our leaders did not lead with the mask. We forgot. And of course, look around right now. A lot of people, despite anything, still don't wear a mask. And I'm not saying wear a mask because they vaccinated or wear a mask because they don't believe. They just don't want to. It's just not the thing. But eventually, if this climate keeps going the way it's going, and we keep getting a lot of pollutants from climate change in the air, we'll have to wear a mask just to protect our lungs. And an N95 mask, a respirator will not do it. They don't sell these masks that protect you from those type of pollutants or those type of contaminants on your body. But yeah, now the mask it's a big deal now, but I'm glad it's a big deal. So get your mask, wear your mask, keep your mask, and do not buck the system. There's no alternative to a mask. Face covering is an alternative. Face covering, that's a gaither or any type of face covering, handkerchiefs, a bandana, whatever you want to call it, face coverings. But at the same time, that does not mean you could just run your mouth and have 1,000 COVID ass conversations, especially if it's cloth. If your mask is cloth, if your mask is cotton, you need to really limit your conversation because it gets wet and then it starts leaking through and things go like that. But yeah, so. And the last thing I got with COVID, even I just run my mouth. Last thing I got with COVID, now they're changing the length of time that people are infected with COVID. Now, I'm going to say this right here, and I'm going to say this in closing. I don't think the length of time has changed. I think because we were so far behind with the mask efforts, with the mask information, that when people got vaccinated and got over COVID, the whole wear your mask wasn't pushed. It wasn't pressed how important it is for even if you've gotten over COVID, wear your mask. So they were reinfecting themselves. Now they have the antibodies. They were reinfecting themselves. These are people who contracted it, gotten over it, got the antibodies. They were reinfecting themselves, and it wasn't lasting 2 months. They just got around somebody else who had COVID again. So yeah, I mean, wear your mask. If you have underlying health issues, please get one of the shots and go see your doctor. Don't assume you have an underlying health issue, and do not eat your way into underlying health issues. That is the wrong thing to do. And this has been another COVID weekly update. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, stay blessed. Take care of yourself and take care of others. And welcome to the Grill Dub.